There's a new Meghan video circulating this week, and calling it gross is actually the polite version of what the internet settled on. Harry, meanwhile, is apparently more popular than ever after one dinner with his father, which is a sentence I want you to sit with for a second. He's also busy planting the idea that the king himself wants to show up at Invictus Birmingham, which is a lot of wanting for one relationship that supposedly needed healing. And a television host called the pair insufferable on live TV, and somewhere out there, a PR team is already scheduling next month's redemption arc. So welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Let's get down to it. So let's start with the ice cream cone heard around the internet. Meghan dropped a new as-ever promotional video this week, and it should have been the easiest content in the world. Summer, a garden in Montecito, a bagel, a sundae. Instead, it turned into one of those moments where you watch the reaction roll in and think, someone in that house needs to start pre-testing content with actual humans before it goes live. So the video shows Meghan in her garden with her dog Mia, assembling what's billed as her favorite summer dessert. She spreads her own as-ever raspberry jam onto a scoop of vanilla ice cream, adds crumbles shortbread, tops it with her now signature flower sprinkles, the dead flowers that we have seen so many times. Product placement dressed up as a lifestyle moment, which fine, and that's the whole business model still. But the problem wasn't the concept. The problem was the execution, because somewhere in the edit, she ends up holding a plain ice cream cone with absolutely none of her own product on it, smiling at it like it's the star of the show. And of course, this is the internet. People notice immediately. One commenter asked flatly who exactly she's celebrating with, given she's alone with a dog in every one of these videos. Another called the whole thing sad and desperate. A third pointed out the obvious continuity problem. She makes an elaborate sundae, then poses with a completely different cone that has none of the product she's supposedly selling. Fourth went for the jugular, noting that she's always by herself in these clips, yet always laughing at something off camera, like there's an audience only she can see. Maybe imaginary friends or something. And then there was the one that really landed. Someone wrote that she's still trying to sell whimsy, and people simply don't find her whimsical, which is exactly why Hollywood closed the door on her and on gingerbread. But here's the thing about that reaction. It's not really about a bagel or a cone or a flower sprinkle. It's about pattern recognition. People have now watched years of this exact format. Woman alone in a garden, performing a domestic moment for a camera, selling a product through vibes rather than any sort of substance. And when the format worked, it worked because it felt aspirational. It doesn't feel aspirational anymore. It feels like a woman narrating her own isolation and calling it, daily content. So the comments aren't cruelty for its own sake. They are the accumulated result of watching this same performance long enough that the seams started to show. And once the audience can see the seams, no amount of raspberry jam fixes it. And speaking of things that don't quite add up, let's talk about Harry's sudden popularity surge. According to a fresh report, Harry's popularity has astonishingly risen following his recent visit with the family in the UK. Astonishingly is a very big word in that sentence, and I want you to notice it because that word choice it doesn't look like an accident. That wasn't purpose. Nobody writes astonishingly unless the actual polling movement is small enough that it needs dramatic packaging to look like a headline. So let's be honest about what actually happened here. Harry had a visit. There were photos. No, there were no photos. There was a narrative available, only the narrative. One where the prodigal son returns and the country, moved by the sight of reconciliation, warms back up to him. That is a narrative that is useful to exactly one group of people, and it is not the polling firms. So I am not buying a word of it, of course, and here's why. Popularity built on a single family visit is not popularity. That is a sugar rush. It's the kind of number that spikes because a story briefly made someone sympathetic on a slow news day, and it evaporates the moment the next unflattering headline lands, which, given this week alone, took approximately 48 hours. So what is actually more interesting than the number itself is the timing of when it got reported. Carefully sourced story about rising popularity landing in the same news cycle as a redemption-adjacent family reunion, that is the kind of thing that reads less like organic sentiment and more like a coordinated release. Somebody wanted this headline to exist this week specifically, and somebody made sure it did. Which brings me to the part of this story that I find genuinely more revealing than the popularity numbers. Harry is now reportedly hoping his father will attend next year's Invictus Games, with a source describing his motive as twofold. Well, the twofold is generous, but bear with me. Let's call it what it looks like from the outside. A public wish delivered through friendly media asking for the one thing that would generate maximum reconciliation optics with a minimum actual effort from Harry himself. So think about what's actually being asked here. No, not a private conversation, not quiet invitation extended through normal family channels. No, that is a story plays with outlets and photos about how much Harry wants his father there, phrased in exactly the way that turns a personal request into a public test of the king's affection. If Charles attends, it's framed as healing. If Charles doesn't attend, the framing is already built in advance, ready to be deployed as evidence that reconciliation efforts are one-sided. Poor Harry! So yeah, that is not a twofold motive. That is the no-lose motive. And it's the same instinct that's shown up again and again since the move to California. Manufacture the emotional stakes publicly, then let the family's actual response get measured against a narrative that Harry got to write first. So none of this is to say the Invictus Games themselves aren't a genuinely good cause, because they are. And that is precisely what makes using them as a stage for a family relations chess move, feel like such a shame. The competitors deserve a story about them. And instead, we get a story about whether a father shows up for his son on camera. Now, if you are wondering whether any of this is landing the way it's meant to, the answer arrived loud and clear this week from an unexpected corner. A television presenter went on air and simply said, the quiet part out loud, branding Harry and Meghan insufferable during a discussion about the fallout from Harry's failed legal action against a British tabloid publisher. So the remarks came during a broadcast segment focused on the financial consequences of that lawsuit, and the presenter didn't hedge. His point, in essence, was that Harry's ongoing legal battles and constant public profile have left the couple increasingly out of step with public opinion. But that word, insufferable, is doing something that the astonishingly popular headline can't undo. It's the honest read from someone with a no reconciliation narrative to protect and no as ever jam to sell. It's a broadcaster looking at the totality of the last several years, the lawsuits, the interviews, the documentaries, the constant low hum of grievance, and concluding that the audience has simply run out of patience. And that is really the through line connecting everything in today's script. A gross out ice cream ad nobody asked for. A popularity bump that needed the word astonishingly to sound believable. A planted wish about a father attending a sporting event that dressed up as sentiment. And now a television host calling the whole operation insufferable on air without apology. Now here's a prediction, and you can hold me to it. Given the run of bad press this week, I would put real money on a charity appearance surfacing within the next week or two. Maybe a surprise visit somewhere. Maybe a quiet video about a cause close to Meghan's heart. Maybe Harry turns up somewhere photogenic with children in matching t-shirts. Now, nothing wrong with charity, obviously. That's not the point. The point is the pattern. Every time the criticism piles up past a certain threshold, warm, camera-ready moment of generosity appears right on schedule, time just well enough to reset the conversation before the previous story finishes doing damage. It is not cynicism to notice a pattern. It's just doing the numbers. So let's take stock of where we actually are. A gross out dessert video that's become a case study in how far the goodwill has eroded. A popularity claim that needs an adverb to sound credible. A charity's flagship event being used as leverage in a family relationship. And a television host willing to say what a lot of people have been thinking for a while now. So whatever comes next, and I promise you, something photogenic and charitable is coming, none of it changes what this week actually revealed. I'm sure this is not the last time we hear about a rift, a reconciliation attempt, or a carefully timed popularity headline. If anything, expect the redemption tour to start any day now. So let me know what you think of it in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Much love and bliss.